Welcome to the Advantage Podcast, a monthly unscripted conversation with host David Ashcraft and top leaders impacting our world. Created by pastors for pastors to strengthen our leadership and expand our knowledge and influence.
Well, hey guys, welcome to the Advantage Podcast, and I'm excited to introduce our guest to you today, Roy Clair. Roy, thank you for jumping in with us. I appreciate it so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So one of the fun things about being in Lititz, Pennsylvania is getting to know about an organization called Clair. At least it used to be Clair Brothers. Now it's Clair Audio. And Roy Clair is one of the founders, the two brothers that started Clair Audio. And we asked him if he would just talk a little bit about audio in churches, because that's a really big deal these days. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, but also just learn from Roy from a business standpoint and a leadership standpoint, a growing organization. And so maybe let's go back all the way to your start with Clair Brothers, Roy. And so you started in what, the 60s, early 60s?
Yeah, in 66.
And how did you get started? What even started you down this track? Because did you grow up thinking you wanted to be an audio expert, or how did this even come to play?
It was a hobby. And it was a hobby. My father, who was a grocer, bought us a sound system for Christmas one year. And, we still are puzzled why a grocer would buy his sons a sound system. So it was a hobby, and it was gratifying to do things with sound and make, help people hear and appreciate the event.
And who were some of your first customers? Were you just doing it around Lititz, around Lancaster, or were you doing it in a variety of places?
No, we do a horse show or two in Lancaster, and all the parades and Easter egg hunts and dances at the local high school, and that was about as much as we did at that time.
And then at some point, if I heard the story right, and I may not have heard the story right, but somebody either came to town or somebody was looking for a sound system, a recording artist, and somehow they connected with you. And that's kind of what started you guys off as far as more Clair Brothers. Is that correct?
It is. And as all of the people listening today, they know that if you're at the right place at the right time, things happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then you got to be prepared. But we were hired by F&M, Franklin and Marshall in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to do their concerts in their gymnasiums. At that time, it was, if you had a big gym, you could do concerts in a 3,000 or 4,000 seat place, and then the entertainers were on tour, and then the agent would hire them for your facility. And my brother and I were hired by F&M, and we had our first concert with the Four Seasons.
Okay.
A New Jersey group, Sherry Ragdoll, etc. But anyway, and they liked that we did, and they were looking for a sound company, and we were there. So it was the right place at the right time. They took us on tour with them, and one of the things that sticks in my mind is they said, if you want to make it in the business, you have to move out of Lititz. And as you know, Dave, now rock in Lititz is the largest in the world. Our facilities, our rehearsal facilities are the largest, and everyone comes to Lititz now to put their show together.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what you guys have grown from. So it was the Four Seasons back in 1966, 67, in that range. And so that was back before they were even traveling with their own sound equipment then. They would just show up, and whatever the sound was, that's what they used.
Exactly. And Frankie Valli wanted to be Frank Sinatra. So he figured if he took a sound system on the road with them, they'd be consistent every night.
Okay.
So there we were.
Interesting. And so when did you know this was actually going to be able to be a business that was going to be profitable and you could make a living at this?
Well, the excitement, obviously, it's like scoring a when you play football, scoring a TD. And every night was, scoring a TD. Anyway, we weren't making a lot of money. And I think, obviously, everyone that's listening today knows that money isn't the end all. So
Right.
we appreciated that we were in an industry that could grow and that we could actually use a lot of our talent to do things that weren't being done.
That's good. So you were having to not only figure out audio, but you were creating, because you guys were on the front end of all of this, right? And so you're creating speakers, systems, even the whole traveling thing was somewhat new. And so creating the whole way through.
Yeah, especially, getting into the hall, doing the show, and then getting out of the hall as quickly as one could do it. And that saved money with the unions and et cetera. So we were really, in the beginning, we were really good at getting in, getting out.
Interesting. And I would assume it was pretty primitive back then. Was, as far as the sound, was it just a couple of speakers just up on sticks or on poles in the front, or was it fairly elaborate right off the bat?
Well, they were large. Well, they were relatively large cabinets for the day. They were Altec Lansing Voice of the Theater, which are, were professional at that time, and they were different. Frankie actually walked in F&M and looked at the speaker cabinets and was impressed because they weren't simple. They had a lot of curves and vents and the whole 9 yards, and he was most impressed. So we did start out with a sophisticated sound system, and I actually built the cabinets myself because we couldn't afford to buy.
Is that right? Is that right? And what was your background then? Because was it engineering or?
Well, I went to Millersville, and I was an IA student majoring in electronics. And then obviously they had everything that one would want to start a business.
Okay.
Metal, wood, electronics, plastics, printing, everything. I mean, it couldn't have been more helpful in our business. And then my brother had an associate degree in engineering. So we,
And so nowadays, let's come all the way fast forward to where Clair Audio is today. So the name changed from Clair Brothers to Clair Audio.
Well, I hate to correct
Go ahead.
my friend, the minister, but it's Clair Global.
Clair Global. You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. And you can correct anytime.
Troy wanted to be known globally rather than locally, so he changed the name to Global.
Clair Global. Okay, good. So, and as far as the kind of acts that they are working with now, who might be some people that we might recognize?
Well, Taylor Swift obviously is.
So you guys did Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah. Elton John, Billy Joel, the Rolling Stones, all the females, Madonna and Lady Gaga. I think we do at least 80% of all shows in the world.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Well, it is for two kids from Lititz, two Hicks, incidentally.
And the incredible thing is they then come to Lititz, most of them, to practice, right? So you set up big, giant facilities, somewhat to look like auditoriums that they're going to be performing in.
It's actually arenas. They used to have to go to an arena to practice, and then obviously, arenas are expensive. So the production managers talked us into building an arena-size facility in Lititz, Pennsylvania. It's the largest rehearsal facility in the world.
Wow.
And then obviously it was very popular, so they built one right next to it. And now they're down in Nashville. We built a campus in Nashville.
Yeah, that's amazing. So country artists down there, but probably I would think you've got all kind of artists at both places, right? So
that's the market we were going after in Nashville.
Yeah,
obviously,
very good.
There's a lot of churches down there also that we're putting sound systems in.
Yeah, so let's talk about that real quick. When I came to LCBC, Roy, in 1991, One of the things I was told is we had Clair Brothers speakers in the auditorium. And the reason was Ken Barber, who you know and works with you or has worked for you for years, was a part of LCBC, and he was able to finagle with you or work a deal with you where we could use some of your equipment in LCBC. And so that's when I first came across the name Clair Brothers and knew we had incredible sound, though I didn't know why. So, and that was 1991. So.
Well, yeah, and then obviously we were very happy because your church was growing, and it was a pleasure for us to put a sound system in a church that used it, where you had the entertainment and the excitement in the ministry, where you could get involved. Obviously, if you're a sound person, you want the sound to excite the people to get involved. And obviously, you people cornered the market on that in our area.
Well, that's good. So talk a little bit more about that then. That's some of the mindset. So when you were doing sound back when you first got started, even today, you don't see it just as a tool to amplify. You actually see it as a way to motivate people, inspire people, encourage people. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Full frequency. At one time, churches used horns, and there was no low end. To involve everyone, you need full frequency, even sublows. Churches are now using sublows.
Yeah.
Obviously, and that was unheard of in the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you were joking as we were talking a little bit before this recording, Roy, that back in the early days, it was choirs. And why would you need a sound system for choirs or the room being live? And why would you want to feel anything? And that was kind of your early day experience with churches.
Well, acoustically speaking, the people running that were in charge of the church wanted their choir to sound big and their organ to sound big. And it wasn't what a sound person would want. A sound person needs a semi-dead church rather than a live church. So when we entered yours, you didn't have a choir and you didn't have an organ. And so we could do the full frequency.
Yeah, that's good. And when you talk about full frequency and you talk about the low bass and things like that, it's funny because we'll still from time to time get people to say, well, I can feel it in my chest. And we're like, good, that's great. We want you to feel it in your chest. And they almost act like there's something wrong with that. But I'm sure you've heard all kinds of complaints about volume and feelings and things like that over the years.
Well, as you know, the younger kids are a little more into it. And we older people weren't used to sublows. So obviously you have to educate them. And some of them go, well, I really like that. And then others go, oh, I'm not sure about that. It's a happy medium, isn't it? That guy that sits out at the console in a church, sometime his job is difficult.
Oh, it's very challenging. And Roy, we always kind of joke and say, if nobody notices him, then he's doing his job and he's doing it just right. If everybody's noticing him, then that means there's something wrong. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had Clair Brother guys, because of being here in Lititz, then we've been able to utilize your staff and have them help us over and over in setting up our systems. And so I think now we've got 25 locations, and I want to say that you guys are in all of our locations. And so very much have appreciated the relationship with Clair over the years. Well,
we obviously appreciate it. And our people actually like to do your mixing. They appreciate the fact that you can add excitement in a church.
That's great.
You have some of the best people in the world touring with known groups, wanting to do your church.
That's cool. That's good. Yeah. Fun to hear that. Yeah, fun to hear that. And you guys, it's not only touring then, so you do the installation in churches, and then you also do, like you guys at least used to do, the Grammys or Emmys or some of those different programs as well?
Well, the company, I think, in the last 5 years have purchased 30 other companies.
Is that right? Okay.
Television companies, the ones that do all the Grammys and all the religious and the awards, and the political, the Democratic and Republican convention. So we have a TV sound company that does all of those things. And obviously, we even do golf courses.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, one of the other things that I work on, Roy, is an organization called the Global Leadership Network, and it's based out of Chicago. And we do a big conference annually. And so this year, actually, one of your new companies, I think it's Mobii, Mobii, but they do the LIV golf tournaments.
Right.
And they're going to be doing our broadcast for us at the summit this year for the first time. So we're looking forward to working with them.
And yeah, great. Obviously it's exciting for me because, starting with 2 speakers and then end up with, we can't even count the watts that we have in our company. We started 30 watts. Now it's in the billions, I think.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's real true. So, Roy, you've been through a lot of changes with Clair. So Clair Brothers to now Clair Global. And talk about how that easy? Was that hard? How did you manage to navigate all the changes as you were growing? And so we're talking to pastors, and one of the hopes and goals of every pastor is that their church will grow. But we know that growth also brings some challenges because it just brings change. And so in your mind, how did you think through some of the changes you went through? Or can you even identify some of the biggest changes you had to go through as an organization as you guys were growing?
Well, basically, obviously, what the Four Seasons thought would hinder us helped us. Being from a small area with a mentality to help, and never say no, helped us because we never said no to anything, and we were always smiling. We were always happy with what we were doing, and our competitors all were from cities. And we know the difference between a city and a town. And we had an incredible advantage working harder than most because of our background and how we were taught.
So 2 things you just said there that helped you grow. One is just a work ethic where it's going to take hard work. And I think pastors know that it's hard work, but it's also attitude too. And so I appreciate you saying that, because just that spirit of never saying no, that spirit of always being positive. Roy, you and I live in the same building, and so I get to see you frequently. And I have never, I don't think, seen you when you haven't said, man, it's a great day. Or if I ask how you're doing, then you're doing fantastic. And so it's just that outlook that's positive, which makes a big difference to the people you're working with.
Absolutely. That, having a smile on your face makes everyone feel as though you're enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes a huge difference.
I go with the lowest common denominator philosophy. Make it as simple as possible. And the smile is the simplest thing you can do to have success. It makes up for some deficiencies. A smile can make up for a lot of deficiencies.
Yeah.
So, I'm a PMA kind of guy, positive mental attitude. All the people that I've ever worked for said, I want that guy around because he seemed to be happy about what he's doing.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's so important in churches. I say, and when we would hire staff, Roy, at LCBC, I would just say, man, we're going to spend a lot of time together. So we want to enjoy what we're doing. We want to enjoy each other. We don't have to be best friends. We need to like each other and enjoy working together. And so, yeah, you went from you and your brother to, do you even know how many people Clair's employs now?
8,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. So a bunch. Yeah. So that's quite a change. Quite a change.
Yeah. From 2 to 8,000. Oh, incidentally, I would like to mention one thing that I think was instrumental in helping. 3 weeks on the tour with the Four Seasons, one of the Four Seasons grabbed me by the shirt, and I was good at listening. He said, "Don't do drugs." So Roy Clair has never done a drug in his life.
Interesting.
Of all the touring and of all the people that have tried to get me, no. And a lot of that had to do with my upbringing in the church.
Interesting.
I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to go to a church that had an amazing Sunday school, and obviously later a church. I was really a little different in the industry because
I would think,
I would be, they would call me straight, and I didn't mind being straight.
Yeah. And the music industry definitely has a reputation and a
You got that
strong
right.
influence
Yes.
the other way. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. So
I wanted to say that because obviously today the kids are doing a little too many drugs, and obviously we have to work on that.
Yeah, interesting. So again, you're growing as an organization. When did you start having to create a management structure or change the way you were operating? Can you think back to as you were growing, and your son, your brother's son are involved in the company as well, right? So were they working with you right off the bat as they were getting old enough to do that?
Well, yes. They obviously, when they went to school, they had in mind joining the company.
Okay.
And I think looking back, obviously, when we broke, it was in probably around 70 when the English start coming to America, and they picked us as their sound company to tour.
Okay.
And that put us on the map.
Interesting. Yeah. So you were having to hire lots of people. You were having to create structure to manage everybody and things like that. Is that your strength, or are you more the creative person, or how did you?
Well, creating new ways of doing the industry was our strength. Everyone looked at us and said, whatever Clair Brothers are doing, let's copy them. And we had the second largest company in the world said, in a forum said, well, whatever Clair Brothers do, we do. So we were fortunate enough to be the leaders, and a lot of that had to do from, again, our area.
Yeah, interesting. That's good. So Roy, talk about churches. So again, you're talking to pastors. What would you wish that pastors would think differently about sound and the way they think of sound systems in their churches? Because I know Clair Brothers now has an installation. So they work with churches, and it's not just LCBC, but they work with churches across the United States. What do you wish pastors would think differently about when it comes to sound?
Well, we're in a different age than we were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And most pastors actually take a course in sound when they go through seminary.
Okay.
I was surprised because, I visited a few schools that taught, and they said, oh, yeah, we have a course where.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It was extremely interesting to me.
Yeah, it wasn't when I went through school. So
no, and honestly, as you know, there are churches in the area and that are visited by everyone, and you go in and you go, wow, I'm impressed with what they're doing compared to what we're doing. So they learn quickly.
Yeah.
What you should do to try and involve everyone spiritually.
Yeah, no, that's good. One of our things, Roy, early on is people would complain about the volume being too loud. And I would just constantly say it's going to be a fine line that we're going to walk. And if we're going to err on the side of too loud, not too soft. And so we did that. And there was actually a letter that I wrote back maybe 5 or 6 years into my time at LCBC. So this would have been mid-90s. And when we would get complaints, and we'd just send the letter out saying, here's why we have it loud. It's because we like to feel it. We want it loud enough where you don't have to hear yourself sing if you're not a good singer. And we're always going to err on the side of being too loud. And so we still even use that letter today, and just saying that it's okay to feel it and it's okay for it to be loud, and that's just who we are. And then we would also say, and if that's not your cup of tea, that's okay. There are other churches that aren't doing it the way we are, and so maybe they ought to be where you go to church. So that was one of our challenges, though, all the time, was the volume that we would use. So.
Right. Well, we were lucky enough to be in this area with this church that I feel had the right philosophy to involve people in the whole area. Music. I mean, you people had an incredible band, and you had everything, and obviously that's why you have the members you do.
Yeah. Well, God's blessed, and it's been fortunate to be a part of it. Yeah. Roy, if you were so you have opportunity to talk to 440 or so pastors across Pennsylvania. if you had opportunity to say anything to them today, what would you say to them? Not even about sound; it could be really about anything. But what advice would you give them as they're leading their churches?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
That might be
It's
dangerous.
hard. I mean, obviously they've gone through school and their congregation is probably their best teacher. Your congregation is helpful in some respects, letting you know what is interesting to them. And with your church, everyone had the same feeling. Let's get everyone involved and have a spiritual feeling where they want to come to church every week because of the feeling they have.
Right.
And obviously we don't want to pass up the love.
Right.
Sound is love. I believe that, don't you?
I do. And let's talk about a couple other things that you've been involved in. So you've talked several times about Lititz and small town. You've been heavily involved in the community, and so even served as mayor for a number of years, right?
I did. Obviously, I love this town, and we are involved. The business has grown to where when the hotels are now packed every time a group comes to Lititz because it's a lot of people that put a show together. Yeah. So, Rock Lititz built a hotel there, and the one where we are, I forget what it's a Hilton, yes. And it's filled all the time because of overflow from Rock Lititz and even Lancaster buses from Rock Lititz to Lancaster.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, it's when there's a big group in, there's a lot of people.
Yeah. It's amazing to see. Yeah, no, it's fun to see the different ones that are in town.
25 semi trucks, Dave.
Is that right?
No, it's not right, but it is true. Wow. That's a joke I always say. Most people say, "Is that right?" 25 semis, and obviously because of where we are outside of Lititz, we have room to park all those vehicles.
That's amazing. And they'll be there for about a month rehearsing, right?
Exactly.
It depends on the tour. Yeah. That's amazing. So one of the other things that you do in the community that I know our family enjoys very much is there's a 4th of July celebration. And I would say, and I know I'm biased because I'm in Lititz, though, everybody that we bring from outside of Lititz to the fireworks show, it's always on the 4th of July, and it's incredible. And Clair Brothers sets up huge speakers. They do the sound, and the sound is synced with all the fireworks. And I think you guys were a part of putting all that together, right? And I would imagine this year for the 250th celebration, it's going to be really strong again, but always good every year. And so thoroughly enjoy that.
Well, thank you. And as you, when we were young, we were always involved in the 4th of July. I mean, even when we had our first speakers, we were doing the sound for the stage in the park.
Yeah.
And then when they started doing fireworks, we got the idea to add sound to it to try and make it more exciting. And I think we did that.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. It's really fun to see. One other question I'll ask you, Roy, and then I'll let you be done. But sometimes when people in churches think the sound is too loud, I had to learn this by talking to our technicians. It isn't so much that it's loud; it's just a bad mix. And would you agree with that? Where when it starts hurting your ears, it may be the volume, but it may not be the volume. It may be the mix that's actually happening on those speakers. Is that a true statement, or?
Absolutely. You couldn't have hit the nail harder on the head. If you have full frequency, it can be pleasant. But as soon as you start amplifying horns more than you're amplifying vocals, etc., it's shrill and it's annoying. You need to actually have an incredible mix, and then everyone will enjoy it. It is normally a bad mix that causes people to say it's too loud.
Yeah. So then what would you advise pastors? Because typically what happens in a lot of churches is there's not a Clair brother or Clair Global located near the church. And so there's not all these sound guys that are great already. And so you're almost going off of volunteers. You're hoping you've got somebody in the church. And usually the volunteer is somebody that just does a little sound on the side, and they're not always great. So what would you advise as far as how to get their sound people up to speed on what they need to do to be mixing well?
Well, you know what I'm amazed at? The number of small sound companies in small towns that are now sophisticated.
Okay.
I mean, they have the state of the art speakers and equipment. I'm bowled over at some of these cities I go, or even towns I go, well, here we have Strayer. I don't know if you've ever heard of. I mean,
yes,
they have an amazing, they do all of the downtown things, but they have an amazing sound company. And I'm amazed that they can add what they do in sophistication. And I'm surprised that all of the little towns I go into, they have someone come to our shows, and they're very knowledgeable.
Interesting. That's good.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Being a sound engineer is extremely gratifying. You think you're actually part of the audience, helping them to feel good. It's almost like being a minister.
Yeah, that's good. I would say, yeah, that's good. I'd take that. So that's good. So, I mean, probably the lesson learned is if people are complaining about the volume, make sure that it truly is the volume and it's not just bad mix. And I think what you're saying is there are companies, there are small audio outfits and
enthusiasts
that actually know what they're doing, that could come in and help. And so don't just turn the volume down. Get somebody to come in and evaluate and help your people mix well.
Well, there's one thing that I'm going to share with the ministry here, and that is that there's something called a limiter. Where if the person at the console gets carried away, there's a limiter to stop him from getting too carried away. So all the ministers ask their sound engineer if they get complaints, where was your limiter?
But the funny thing is,
you ask if I had a suggestion. That's my biggest suggestion.
So you'd say you
write
like
that
limiter,
down. Limiter.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I know there were times that I would just have to say to the guys, just turn it down. And we started getting too much feedback or pushback on the volume. And so I said, just turn it down and we'll kind of work our way back up again. So,
well, limiters are helpful because they do bring down that note that shouldn't be there, that got away from everyone. It's an automatic device, like a car. What's the thing that limits your speed on a car? But anyway, there are devices for sound systems, and we use them incidentally on tour. Oh yeah, because every now and then someone might make a mistake.
Yeah.
But they're with getting excited on stage or whatever it is. The limiter is a helpful tool.
Protects you.
Yeah, it actually stops you from being
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Well, Roy, it's real fun talking to you. It's fun to just think through all that you've done in your lifetime, the impact that you've made, and the impact that Clair Global continues to make. And fun to have you talk to our pastors. They, if they're in Lititz, if you haven't yet, guys, gone through Rock Lititz, it's just about 3-4 miles, not even that, 2 miles maybe up the road from where we are at the Advantage offices. And it's definitely worth time looking there and seeing what they're doing, because it's amazing. Fun to see.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope at least I said one or two things that will help your ministry.
I think you said several things, Roy. So thanks so much. Appreciate the time. And
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Advantage Podcast with David Ashcraft, and for participating in our goal to strengthen and encourage pastors and their churches so more people are introduced to Jesus across Pennsylvania. If you found this helpful, feel free to pass it along. To find out more about the work of The Advantage, visit our website at theadvantage.org.